My name is Elena Marlowe, and I am 29. The band had just shifted from the sweeping violins of our first dance to something that let people breathe again. Glasses clinked softly. Someone's aunt laughed too hard. Fairy lights pressed shy halos onto the crowns of everyone's heads. I could still taste the frosting from the cake sample on my thumb, the way sweetness lingers in the air when a moment tries to convince you it's perfect. And then my mother smiled. It was the same smile I had lived inside all my life. Gentle, radiant, painstakingly rehearsed. A Sunday smile. A charity gala smile. The kind that assures the room that all is fine even while the curtains burn in the next chamber. She leaned close enough for her perfume to erase the last trace of sugar on my tongue. "We're transferring the car your husband's parents gave you to your sister," she said. The words came out like a kind favor, as though she'd reorganized a shelf and found a better place for something I had failed to use properly. Beside her, Sophie tilted her head. The sequins on her gown glimmered like secret jokes. "Relax," she said lightly. Polished as glass. "It's only a car." I didn't look at her. I looked at Margaret's teeth, set in that flawless line. En quay. Richard drifted closer, as though etiquette demanded a witness. Behind them, Noah caught my eye, his brows lifting just a fraction. He didn't move. He didn't need to. We already knew exactly who we were. There's a particular hush that belongs only to weddings, not the emptiness of a vacant hall, but the kind that folds itself over laughter and music, pressing smiles into stillness. That silence arrived now and ironed the room flat. Sophie's voice sliced through it. "It's honestly safer for me," she added, amused by her own joke. "My old car's a disaster." Of course she laughed. Noah's parents had given us the car during the rehearsal dinner clean. Secondhand. Dependable. Not ostentatious. They'd handed me the keys with both hands. Like a blessing. "You built this together," his father said. "Here's something to carry you forward." The title was in my name, a gesture of welcome that felt like trust, not ownership. Maybe that was where the trouble began. I'd learned to sense trouble before it ever had a name. When we were children, Sophie got the larger bedroom, I got the reasoning. She's younger. Sweetheart. She needs more space. When she spilled nail polish remover on my homework table and stripped the varnish, Mom said, "You should have kept your school things in your room." Sophie borrowed my sweaters and returned them misshapen. I got a lecture on sharing with grace. She wrecked her first car. The weather was blamed. I worked 3 Christmas seasons in a warehouse to buy mine. The lesson was that I was dependable. The pattern, immaculate. Sophie would smile sweetly, ask gently, and when that failed, my parents reached for their toolkit excuses. Explanations. A chorus of "she's sensitive, and you're the strong one." I was the eldest, the cross-trained adult who could wait, yield, or surrender without spectacle. Once I wore resilient like a medal, by 29. It felt more like a bell rope. Others pulled whenever they wanted something. Noah's hand brushed my elbow, a light tap. A silent question. Without looking at him, I slipped my fingers into my clutch and felt the weight of the thin envelope inside. Paper shouldn't feel heavy. Yet this did. Margaret's smile brightened by a full watt. "We told her earlier." She chirped, as though announcing a surprise holiday. "She's had such awful luck with cars. And we thought this one might be more useful with her. You two can manage with one for now." Manage like a bow she was tying for me. I took a breath that tasted like glass. "You're giving away our wedding gift," I said. Not loud, not angry, just a sentence seeking acknowledgement. Her smile barely wavered. "Don't make this a scene." "Elena, it's only a car." "Your envelope was empty." I heard myself reply. We assumed it was symbolic. I hadn't planned the line. I think it had been waiting for me all along. Across the table, Sophie's mouth parted, delighted outrage coloring her face. "Wow," she said, half laughing, both superior and insecure at once. "You think you're tough now," somewhere near the cake. A phone camera lifted like a quiet prayer. I leaned toward Noah and whispered, "Give me the envelope." He didn't ask which one, or if I was sure. With practiced ease, he drew it from my clutch and placed it in my palm. Hand to hand, like a vow. My father reached for it before Margaret could. Curiosity creasing his brow, Sophie leaned in, eyes glinting. They opened it as though it might contain a check bright enough to bend light. They hadn't expected legal paper. Margaret's eyes scanned the page too quickly to disguise her eagerness. The smile didn't break it thinned. Sophie read over her shoulder, losing her smirk before the second paragraph. Richard pinched the corner, rereading as if the words might rearrange themselves out of shame. "What is this?" he murmured. "A notarized declaration." I said, voice steady enough to carry. "Signed 2 weeks ago. It states that all wedding gifts, including the vehicle titled in my name, cannot be sold, gifted, or transferred without my written consent. Any attempt to do so triggers a legal review and limits any future inheritance from Noah's side." The music didn't exactly stop at Neild. "You can't be serious," Sophie said, her vowels sharpened by panic. "You're threatening us at your own wedding." "You made a public claim," I replied. "I'm setting a public boundary." Richard laughed. Hollow. "This is absurd. Elena. Over the top. It's a car, not a child." "No," I said softly. "It's the principle. It's every principle you taught me that somehow never applied when Sophie wanted something." Margaret slid the document back into the envelope as though it had offended her manicure. "We're family," she hissed. "You don't treat us like criminals." "You went into our garage last night," I said quietly, each word sharp as glass. "You took photos of the car and posted them." Sophie blinked slowly, like a deer testing reality. "It was a joke," she said, symbolic. Symbolic of what Noah asked, the first words he'd spoken. His tone was pure glass. "That your presence is the gift," she said. A gasp fluttered from someone's aunt. Margaret's smile finally cracked. A tremor began in my legs, the aftershock of choosing yourself in public. It should have felt like an earthquake. Instead, it was like stepping off a boat onto a dock, unsteady, yet blessedly solid beneath. Sophie straightened her shoulders, finding strength in accusation. "You've always been like this," she said. "Both of you. So self-righteous." I turned fully toward her without raising my voice. "You floated through life on apologies I had to make. You wear other people's consequences like borrowed coats. You call it family. I call it access." "Enough," Richard said, trying to reclaim the room. "This is a wedding, and this," I said, "is the last day I pretend it isn't happening." Noah's fingers threaded through mine. 1, 2, 3, a silent count-off. The band waited. The guests waited. The old script waited for my obedience. I didn't give it. I drew out a second envelope, holding it between 2 fingers. Sophie's name was printed on the front. She stared as though it burned. Margaret lunged for it, but I pulled it back an inch, a boundary made visible. "This one's real, not symbolic," I said gently. "Consider it documentation." Behind us, the cake sighed. Somewhere far away, a cork popped cheerfully. "Dance," Noah murmured to the band. "Like a dare." The drummer raised his sticks. The singer looked to me for a cue. I nodded once. The music swelled. The room inhaled. Sophie's next protest vanished beneath the bass line. We turned into the song Noah and I, and my mother's practiced smile finally slipped away. Sophie's glitter stopped winking. The envelope waited in my hand like a truth with edges. I pressed it into my father's palm as we passed. Help isn't theft, I said, and love isn't access. We danced not for display, but for reclamation. At the edge of my vision, I saw Margaret watching, working to build a new smile that fit what the room had become. For once, I hoped it wouldn't come. The music still played when the whispers began rippling through the tables like the slow roll of a tide. Cousins murmuring, an aunt pretending to fix her napkin while filming, a friend mouthing drama behind her champagne flute. That's the thing about families like mine. They adore an audience almost as much as they despise accountability. Margaret stood frozen beside the cake, her face painted in civility, her eyes shaking. Sophie tried to laugh it off. A brittle, high-pitched sound, stripped of its usual charm. She still thought she could recover the scene. Seriously, Elena, she said, disbelief cracking her tone. You're doing all this over a car. Noah squeezed my hand, but I didn't look at him. This isn't about a car, I said quietly. It's about everything that was ever mine becoming yours. Sophie scoffed, her voice rising. Oh, for God's sake, are we really dredging up school years now? You're married. Move on. School was rehearsal, I said. You took my room, my clothes, my peace. This was your graduation project. Awkward laughter trembled through the room. Someone turned the music down. The quiet that followed wasn't peace, it was tension. We're not doing this here. Margaret snapped. Elena, stop humiliating yourself. Myself, I repeated. You publicly announced you were giving away my wedding gift. That's not humiliation. Mum, that's theft in formal wear. Richard ran a hand through his thinning hair. Just let it go, he muttered to her, but his eyes were fixed on me. The way someone looks at a stranger who knows too much. Sophie's expression flickered with something familiar, panic hidden under privilege. She leaned in, softening her tone. Elena, you know I'm struggling. Right. My old car's practically dead. And your new one's just sitting there. There it was. The justification. Soft entitlement dressed up as desperation. Noah finally spoke. Voice measured. We're not running a charity. Sophie, her cheeks flushed. Easy for you to say. Mr. Moneybags, you married up. Noah's jaw tightened. But before he could respond, I stepped in. You mean he married someone who doesn't surrender anymore? Sophie blinked. Thrown off. What's that supposed to mean? It means the free ride is finished. A murmur rippled across the tables. Margaret's hand trembled as she struggled to reclaim control. Everyone, please, she said, her tone trembling with forced grace. Let's calm down. This has gone far enough. But I wasn't done. Mum, I said quietly. Did you know Sophie went into our garage last night? That froze her mid-breath? She took photos of the car and posted them. Captioned it. Finally got a ride that fits me. Margaret's lips parted. Richard frowned. Sophie's hand flew to her phone like she could erase evidence by sheer panic. How did you find out? She stammered. Security cameras, I said evenly. And your post had a geotag? A soft gasp rolled through the guests. Sophie turned scarlet. You're stalking me now? No? Noah replied calmly. We just check who tries to open our garage door at midnight. The air shifted. The false warmth drained away. Only the truth remained heavy. Unfiltered. I reached into my clutch again. That single motion made my mother's head snap toward me. She thought it was another envelope. Another blow. And she was right. This, I said. raising a crisp sheet of paper, is a notice of unauthorized access and misuse of personal property. We intended to send it quietly, but since this discussion has gone public, Sophie's mouth opened. But no sound followed. Margaret snatched the paper from me, scanning it. "You're being ridiculous," she hissed. "This is family business. Not something you drag lawyers into. Family business." I echoed, laughter trembling in my voice. "That's what you said when she maxed out my debit card at 17. When she wrecked the car Grandpa helped me buy. When she sold my old laptop and called it borrowing every single time. You turned it into family business." Richard's voice sliced through the room, coarse as gravel. "You're making a fool of yourself. Sit down." I met his eyes for the first time. I've been sitting down for 29 years. "Dad, you just never noticed." The silence that followed was alive, thick, damp, suffocating. Noah's voice broke it, steady and precise. "We'd appreciate it if no one touched our property again. That includes our car, our home, or anything connected to my family's name." Sophie's eyes flashed. "Oh, I see. Your family's name. So this is about status." "No," he said simply. "It's about respect." Margaret tried one last time to salvage her poise. "We raised you to be kind, Elena, to be generous. You raised me to give." I said, "And you taught Sophie to take." The words hit like thunder. Even the fairy light seemed to flicker. Sophie stepped forward, shaking. "You really think you're better than me now?" "No," I said softly. "I'm just done letting you decide what I owe." Her lower lip trembled. "You're heartless." "Then maybe stop trying to find my pulse in my bank account." Gasps fluttered through the crowd. One of Noah's uncles clapped quietly, the sound of someone who understood the peace that comes after setting boundaries long overdue. Margaret's voice softened, pleading now. "We're family. We can fix this later." "No," I said. "Later is how you kept me small." Sophie tried to laugh again, but the sound cracked halfway through. "You're not perfect either." "Elena, never said I was," I replied. "But at least I'm not pretending theft is love." Her eyes welled with tears. "You'll regret this." "I already have," I said. "For 29 years. And with that, I turned away. Noah took my hand and guided me back to the dance floor. The music had shifted slow, cinematic. We didn't speak as we began to move again. Around us, guests pretended to eat, to chat, to not stare. When the song ended, we bowed slightly to the band, as if nothing had happened. But everyone knew everything had. That night, after the reception, we drove home in the same car they had tried to claim. Windows down, wind wild, silence louder than any argument. When we pulled into the drive, Noah switched off the engine. "You all right?" he asked softly. I stared at our house, the still street, the generous quiet. "I'm better than all right," I said. "I'm finally finished." He smiled, taking my hand. "Good," he murmured, "because something tells me your family isn't." He was right. The next morning proved it. The day after the wedding felt like waking in a stranger's home. The dress hung over a chair. The bouquet had wilted in its vase. The silence in our kitchen wasn't peaceful. It was watchful. Noah brewed coffee while I scrolled my phone. Half awake, half bracing. I shouldn't have looked. But curiosity is a stubborn animal. The first post hit like static in my chest. Sophie Marlowe. "Some people value money more than family. Hope it's worth it." 53 likes. 3 heart emojis. One comment from Mum letting go is painful, but sometimes necessary. still praying for those who forget where they came from. I stared until the screen dimmed. Don't, Noah said softly. Don't read it again. I'm not. I lied. He slid a mug toward me. She's trying to rewrite the story before it settles. He was right. That's how my family operated. Whoever spoke first defined the truth. The truth was whatever sounded polite enough to circulate at brunch. But this time, the story belonged to us. We'd planned to leave for our honeymoon that morning, drive up the coast in our car. The one they tried to take. We had no destination, only a map dotted with places we'd never seen. As I packed, another notification chimed. This one worse, a crowdfunding link. Title vehicle, emergency caused by betrayal goal, £8,000. Organizer Sophie Marlowe. The description was pure performance flowery. Self-pitying. My sister and her husband blindsided me on their wedding day. I lost access to the car that was promised to me. And now I can't get to work. I'm just trying to rebuild. Every little bit helps. 2 donors. £80 raised. One name stood out, Karma. In pounds. Noah burst out laughing. Karma donated. You can't make this up. I took a screenshot and closed the app. She'll delete it when she realizes no one's buying the act. He nodded. And when she does, she'll find another way to play the victim. She always does. I said. The drive began in quiet, the kind that feels deserved. We passed city signs and long ribbons of road that hummed like freedom. No messages. No expectations, just wind and cheap service station snacks. At one rest stop, I caught my reflection in the car window. No makeup. Hair pinned loosely. Eyes tired but alive. Noah followed my gaze. You look peaceful, he said. I feel unhooked. I admitted like I'd been holding my breath for a decade and finally remembered how to breathe. He smiled. Boundaries will do that. We didn't talk much after that. We didn't need to. Every mile between us and my parents felt like a wall I should have built years earlier. 3 days later, sitting by a lake with our feet in the water, my phone buzzed again. A long message from Mum. You're still angry. This has gone too far. Family helps family. That's how we raised you. I stared at it for a moment, the words like a net, trying to pull me back into the role I'd finally escaped. Then I replied with a photo, not of us smiling, not the wedding, not the car, just one picture of the notarized letter. Caption: help isn't theft. After sending it, I blocked her, not out of hatred, but out of habit breaking. Back home, we unpacked slowly. The air in our house felt different, lighter, sharper, truly ours. The group chats went silent. Cousins stopped messaging. The family thread that once pinged daily with Good Morning S, silly memes, and Sunday dinner plans was dead. It didn't hurt the way I'd imagined. It felt earned. 2 weeks passed before the next ripple. A cousin texted, "You two okay? Aunt Marjorie said there was a fight at the wedding." Not a fight, I replied. A boundary. No response. Just the blinking dots. Then nothing. The silence was its own kind of peace. Noah and I returned to work. We stopped explaining ourselves. We started new rituals, slow Sunday breakfasts, evening drives, music with no lyrics. Sometimes I'd see Sophie's name appear in my suggested posts. Her curated happiness shining like glass, transparent and fragile. I didn't click anymore. One evening, sorting through the wedding photos, I found one no one else had noticed. It wasn't staged or smiling or perfect. It was taken seconds after the confrontation, Mum's hand midair. Sophie's mouth half open. My face unreadable. Noah steady beside me. A friend must have snapped it by accident. I printed it and tucked it behind the perfect pictures in a frame. Because perfection is a lie, but truth, even when it ages, is worth keeping. That became my favorite photo of the whole night because it was real. The peace lasted about 3 weeks. Then came guilt not theirs. Mine. It arrived in small doses, like a cough that wouldn't quit. Each quiet morning haunted by that internal voice. I'd been trained to obey. You're the problem if they're upset. That's what being the resilient one. Does it rewires you to feel guilty for surviving? No one noticed before I did. You've been staring at that mug for 10 minutes, he said one morning. What's happening in your head? Just detoxing. I guess. He tilted his head. Detoxing, yeah. I smiled faintly. From obligation. He nodded slowly. Then let's keep going. That afternoon, we did something ceremonial, mundane to anyone else. Life-changing to me. We changed the locks. The old keys clattered into the bin with a sound that felt fine. New keypad. New code. No more emergency contacts listed under Mum or Dad. For years, I'd left them away in literal and emotional, a spare key beneath a flower pot, a shared credit card, family passwords. I told myself it was love. It was fear. That day, I let go of all of it. 3 therapy sessions later, I said something aloud that startled even me. I'm not grieving, I'm detoxing. My therapist smiled gently. Tell me more about that. I thought I missed them. I said, but I think I just missed being predictable. Their version of me was simple, the fixer, the forgiver, the one who never said no. Letting that version die felt selfish. But it wasn't. It's self-respect. She said. That word landed hard. Respect. Something I had handed out like napkins. The fixer. The forgiver. The one who never said no. Allowing that version to die felt selfish. But it wasn't. It's self-respect. She said. The word landed hard. Respect. Something I had handed out like napkins. By the 4th session, I was ready to make it practical. I deleted the old family emergency contacts from my phone numbers that always rang for financial rescues. Never for birthdays. I replaced Margaret's number with my therapist's on speed dial. It wasn't revenge. It was logic. Then I walked to the fridge and peeled off the family photos, one by one. Most were painted smiles anyway, posed peace. I kept one. Only one. The candid shot from the wedding. The moment right after the truth detonated. Margaret mid-frown. Sophie stunned. Me holding the envelope. Noah steady at my side. It wasn't cheerful, but it was true. And that was all I wanted now. People began testing the quiet soon after. An aunt texted, "How's married life?" which slid quickly into, "You know your mother is heartbroken." Right. A cousin wrote, "Don't you think it's time to forgive? She's your mom." But forgiveness isn't a switch you flip for public comfort. It's a boundary you reinforce for private peace. I ignored most messages. When I answered, I kept it spare. Forgiveness isn't owed. Respect is. The replies dried up. One afternoon, Noah found me on the porch, staring at the horizon. "Any regrets?" he asked. I shook my head, just noticing the quiet. He sat beside me. It's strange at first. Isn't it the silence? It isn't the silence. Noah, I said. It's the absence of noise. I mistook for love. He didn't argue. He just held my hand until the sun went down. A week later, I saw a missed call from Richard. No voicemail, just the ghost of his number blinking on my screen like a test. He didn't return it, because calling back meant stepping onto the same stage they had already burned. The next day, a letter slid under our door. No return address. Inside lay a printed photo from my childhood, Sophie and me on the porch. Arms looped, grinning like equals. On the back, in Margaret's hand. Don't let her erase your memories. For a heartbeat, my throat tightened. Then I understood. Even nostalgia was a lever, another plea to rewrite the story under her control. I tore the photo in half, not in rage, but in reclamation. I didn't need to erase my memories. I needed to stop pretending they were safe ones. Morning came. I made breakfast coffee. Toast. Sunlight. I unlocked the door without flinching, turned on music without bracing for someone to police the volume. Freedom doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it's the quiet click of a new lock. A full year passed before the next message. By then, the air in our house felt different still. Honest. Restful. The walls no longer echoed with anxiety. Every inch of space finally felt like mine. Noah and I had stitched small rituals into the week: Friday takeout, Saturday drives, late-night laughter that didn't need to whisper, the kind of life that doesn't need defending. Our anniversary arrived softly. No grand trip. We chose the same car, our car, and drove until the coast appeared. The vehicle that once sparked a war now carried us into peace. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. The sky that evening was watercolor lavender melting into gold. We parked near a cliff, waves below sounding rough but honest. Noah leaned on the bonnet, looking out. Remember when you swore you'd never dance again after that wedding? I laughed. I do. Turns out, I was wrong about a lot. Like what? Like believing I needed them to feel whole. He smiled. You were whole the day you said no. The rest was just cleanup. We stayed until the sun slipped away, headlights blending with the last edge of light. It felt symbolic, leaving the past in shadow, driving into something steady. When we returned home, an envelope waited in the post. No return address. But I knew the handwriting. My stomach didn't twist. It settled. Inside was a single card, cream stock, gilded edges. Her script precise and sharp. We miss you. We love you. Come back when you're ready to be part of the family again. I stared until the ink stopped feeling like a threat. Once. That kind of note would have cracked me open, spiraled me into guilt. Apology. Another cycle of surrender. Now I could see it clearly, not an invitation to reconnect, but to regress. Noah stepped behind me and read over my shoulder. He said nothing. He didn't need to. I tore the card in half. The sound was quiet, almost polite. Then I dropped the pieces into the bin. People think closure comes from reconciliation. It doesn't. It comes from refusal, refusing to step back into rooms that once demanded you shrink. That night, I walked the house one last time, barefoot on the cool floor. Lights dimmed. Every corner whispered something different: ache. Mending. I paused at the fridge. The same candid photo remained, Margaret mid-frown. Sophie disbelieving. Me shielding myself with the envelope. Noah steady beside me. I smiled at it, not in triumph, but in gratitude, because that was the instant everything finally aligned. Breaking cycles isn't theatrical, it's deliberate. It's the moment you stop needing an apology to feel free. For our second anniversary, we drove again, same car, same coast, same wind tearing through our laughter. No audience, no judgment, no invisibilidades. Noah rolled the windows down. Think you'll ever speak to them again? I considered. Maybe, but not like before. Not as their version of me. He nodded. You don't miss them. I smiled faintly. I don't miss being the one they used. We drove in silence after that, not the heavy kind. The earned kind. The kind that arrives when the war is finally over. When we got home, I unlocked the door without hesitation, disarmed the alarm, and walked straight to the kitchen. The same lock they once had keys to, the same house that no longer belonged to them, the same woman who, for the first time, felt safe in her own name. I used to think boundaries meant losing family. Now I know boundaries define it the real kind. In that quiet, sunlit kitchen, the truth felt simple. I didn't want their version of family anymore. I wanted peace. And I had it. Every time I start the car that is mine, every time I open the door without bracing, every time I wake beside someone who loves me without a price tag that is family. That is freedom. That's